For John Turnipseed, life started out good. He had a loving church-going family. When they moved to another state, things quickly changed. Feeling abandoned, John turned to thugs, drug dealers, gang leaders, and pimps to fill the void. John, welcome to Turning Point.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what on earth could have happened to a lovely church-going boy moving to another state to go from being a church boy to a street boy?
Well, my father came up here first, and when we came up here a year later to be with him, he had left the church. He had not went to church the whole time he was up here, and he had started drinking alcohol. And my dad was a deacon in the church, had never drank alcohol in his life, and had never been violent. When we came here, this was a different person. To me, he was the boogeyman. It was like the monster out of your worst dream was your dad now. And he was drunk and abusive, beat my mother every single day.
Wow. Now, in your book, Bloodline, you talk about some of these things, and actually some of it with such candid honesty. What for you was the first point where you realized actually you were out of control as a young man?
I realized I was out of control when I did my first armed robbery. I was like 12 years old, and that I liked it. After we got away with the money, I almost got cut doing the guy we was trying to rob almost cut me. And I just got such a rush out of it. And then when we were counting the money, I realized that what I did was horribly wrong. And there was this conflict of, I shouldn't have did that. And this feeling of, wow, I like this. It was just strange.
Now you talk in your book about how other members of the family get into this sort of life, including, I think, one of your own children that you had to actually hand over to the police. Tell us a bit about that.
My family started a family gang, and it was the largest gang in Minnesota. All of the boys in our family, there was a bunch of families moved up here. We were the first ones. Duplicated what my dad did. They started drinking, all that craziness, and so we had a group of boys that were unfathered, and we all banded together, and I sort of led that sort of group, and we just became very violent and start preying on our own community, we would bully kids going to school, we would break up parties, we did anything we wanted to do and hurt a lot of people. I have a grandson doing life without parole now. So I was raising criminals, and my whole family, to be in our family meant that every boy became a member of our crime family.
Now, in your book, your book really is a story of a transformation and how God can restore you from that sort of life you described to what it ought to be. What was the big turning point for you personally? Because, I mean, it must have been quite difficult. You're not just you now, you are the one a whole bunch of people look up to, and turning away must have been quite a job. What was it that made you change?
A tremendous amount of pain. I had went through a few things, and all of a sudden I was at a point in my life. I was 40 years old. That was 21 years ago. I was 40 years old, and I'd gotten into the most trouble I could possibly get into. They were going to incarcerate me as a career criminal. My son had been shot unmercifully by members of my family. Shot him 13 times, and he almost died, shot his leg off. I had been exposed in a newspaper for the criminal that I was, and I had tricked a lot of people into believing that I was somebody else. And I just was at my lowest point in my life. And I was laying on an office floor, barricaded in an office, crying because the newspaper was outside with TV cameras to do this story about this scum of the earth, John Turnipseed. And I just collapsed. I just didn't have nowhere else to go. And I just took a chance. I took that chance. that God would help me.
Let me ask you, because you make a comment there, which is really how most of us on the other side think when we watch someone who's a criminal on the news or in a report. Your first thoughts are, look at this evil, twisted person that deserves to be shot. You're suggesting that on the other side could be someone who's crying out to God and deserves for us to pray for them and listen to them whilst they're trying to destroy us.
Yeah, sometimes you really don't realize how ugly of a person you became until you're exposed. It's always, I'll quit tomorrow. Okay, nobody knows about this. And when you're exposed, it takes on a whole new element in your life. You're not this big bad gangster. You're not this, you are a piece of dirt, and the whole world is going to see exactly who you are. Your children are going to see it, and you're helpless. For the first time, you are almost the victim of your own self. You've actually victimized your own self, and I can't describe. The only two ways out for me was suicide or God. That was the only two things, and I didn't have. If I'd had a gun, I'd have killed myself.
Now, in your book, you talk about, I mean, there's a phrase at the top of your book that says, you spend enough time in hell, you get the feeling you belong. For someone who's going through that, or a family member of someone who's going through that, who thinks there's no redemption for them, they think they've done stuff that's so bad, no one could ever want to see or hear from them. Remind us again from your story how God can really turn one around.
When a person gets to that point, the only that entity that can turn it all around is God. When God turns it around, the world will turn with God. God has created you, and it was so when I gave my life to God, the skies didn't open up or anything, music didn't start playing or anything, but I had this sense of relief that I never had before in my life. And I knew from that moment on, he started changing me in the eyes of other people. I didn't do anything. God just started, the judge that was going to sentence me all of a sudden changed his mind.
Wow.
Instead of sending me to prison, he even said, I don't know why I'm going to give you a chance.
Forgive me, I'm going to have to stop you there because we've run out of time. But John Turnipseed, author of the book Bloodline, thank you so much for joining us on Turning Point.